10 catering mistakes that destroy profits.
Oh, yeah. The absolute classic traps.
That is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome, everyone. Be sure to subscribe to How to Start a Catering Business.
Yeah.
We are all about the business side of catering.
Because the business side is where you actually survive, right?
Exactly. I mean, picture this. It is 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
Ugh, the worst time.
You are standing over a 3-compartment sink, right? And you are frantically scrubbing baked-on dried marinara sauce out of this massive stainless steel chafing dish.
We have all been there. It's brutal.
You've worked like 80 hours this week. Your feet are completely numb. Your delivery van is making this terrifying rattling sound that you're just desperately trying to ignore.
Just turn the radio up louder.
Right. And when you finally dry off your hands, you pull out your phone to check your business bank account, and the balance doesn't even cover next month's commercial kitchen rent.
Yeah. It's a gut punch.
It really is. You just stand there thinking, where did all the money go? So if you're out there listening, if you have ever packed a hot box or tried to figure out why your sheer exhaustion doesn't match your bank account, this deep dive is for you.
It's the ultimate heartbreaking paradox of the hospitality industry, honestly. I see this exact scenario play out constantly.
So how does it usually look from the outside?
Well, from the outside, your catering business looks like an unstoppable empire, you know? Your calendar is blocked out for the next 6 months. The kitchen is running at maximum capacity, like 24/7.
Right. The vans are always out on the road.
Exactly. The vans are constantly zooming across town. You're doing corporate lunches on Tuesday and massive weekend weddings on Saturday. And you, as the owner, you're working 90-hour weeks.
You're basically sleeping with your phone under your pillow.
Yeah, just waiting for the next client emergency or a text from a prep cook. But then when we actually sit down and we pull back the curtain to look at the raw, unfiltered financials,
Numbers don't lie.
they don't. We realize you're barely making minimum wage. I mean, if you divide your take-home pay by those 90 hours, it's actually terrifying.
And we really have to start by addressing the massive psychological trap that creates this whole situation.
Oh, absolutely. The revenue trap.
Right. It's this fundamental misunderstanding between revenue and profit, because they are not the same thing at all.
Not even close.
But when those giant checks are clearing the bank, your brain completely ignores the difference, right? You get this massive dopamine hit from a $10,000 deposit.
Exactly. I always say, revenue is pure vanity, but profit is sanity.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
Because revenue is just the raw amount of money flowing through the front door. A client hands you a check for $15,000 for a 300-person gala. That is revenue.
And it feels phenomenal to deposit that.
Of course it does. You see that 5-figure number hit your checking account, and your immediate thought is like, I am crushing this. I am a highly successful entrepreneur.
But the reality is a bit colder.
Much colder. Profit is the hard reality of what's actually left over. It's what remains after you pay for the wholesale food, the prep labor, the event staff.
The liability insurance.
Yes, the insurance, the diesel fuel for the van, the replacement cost of the glassware that got smashed during loadout, plus the kitchen rental, and of course, taxes.
Right. So profit is just the tiny slice you actually get to transfer to your personal savings account.
Exactly. And what is absolutely terrifying is how quickly that $15,000 gets eaten alive by tiny, seemingly invisible operational leaks.
It's the compounding danger of this specific industry, I think, because it is almost never one catastrophic, dramatic failure that bankrupts a caterer.
No, you don't usually go out of business because you dropped a 5-tier wedding cake on the floor.
Right. I mean, that's a bad day, but it's death by 1,000 tiny daily cuts.
So true. It's an extra dollar spent on premium ingredients that weren't budgeted for.
Or a wasted hour of prep labor because the kitchen wasn't organized properly.
Yeah, or a poorly routed delivery van that burns extra fuel and windshield time. Those microscopic mistakes, they quietly bleed thousands of dollars out of your accounts over the course of a year.
They absolutely do. And because the margins in food service are inherently tight to begin with, you have zero financial cushion.
None at all. One unexpected repair bill for your walk-in freezer compressor.
Oh, don't even say that. That's a nightmare.
And one client who disputes a massive credit card charge. Suddenly, your entire operation is on the brink of collapse. You are exerting maximum effort just to stay in the exact same place, like running on a treadmill cranked to the maximum speed.
You are exhausted, sweating, but ultimately going nowhere. So if you are out there listening, feeling burnt out, wondering why the math isn't mathing, Let's get into the mechanics of why this happens.
We have to start with the foundation.
Right, before you even step into a kitchen or turn on a convection oven or confirm a single guest count, your business lives or dies by your underlying math.
Your business model is either built on bedrock or sand.
And the quickest way to build on sand is how you value your own services. So let's look at mistake number 1, underpricing catering services.
This is huge.
What is the psychology of pricing? Like, why do so many newer caterers, and honestly even veteran ones, systematically undercharge for their work?
It is almost entirely driven by the paralysis of fear, specifically the fear of an empty calendar.
Oh yeah, that fear is real.
When you are new, or maybe you're just entering the slow winter season, there is this profound anxiety about losing prospective clients to competitors.
You just want to book the gig at all costs.
Exactly. You get an email inquiry, you spend 2 hours putting together a beautiful custom proposal, and right before you click send, you stare at the total price at the bottom of the PDF.
And let's say it's $8,000 based on your actual real costs.
Right. And that insidious little voice in your head whispers, they're going to think that's too expensive. They're going to take this quote, show it to the caterer down the street, and go with them.
And I need the cash flow to make payroll this week.
Exactly. So in a moment of pure panic, you artificially slash the price to $6,000 just to guarantee you win the contract.
I know that feeling intimately. You are sitting at your laptop at midnight, sweating over the quote, and you willingly chop off your own profit margin before the client even has a chance to negotiate.
Which is a terrible habit.
But here's the lethal trap in doing that. When you do that, you are instantly initiating a race to the bottom. And competing solely on price is a game you cannot mathematically win.
You can never win it because there will always, without fail, be someone willing to do it cheaper.
Always.
You are inevitably competing against someone who's operating an unregulated catering company out of their residential home kitchen.
Right. They don't have the same overhead.
They don't pay $2,000 a month for a licensed commissary kitchen. They don't carry a $2 million general liability insurance policy. They're just paying their cousin's cash under the table to serve the food.
So if you, as a legitimate business owner with actual overhead, try to match their basement prices, you will go bankrupt.
Fast. Furthermore, when you compete on price, you signal to the market that price is your only value proposition.
Which attracts the worst kind of clients.
It attracts a very specific type of client. The client who will nickel and dime you for every single appetizer, demand endless menu revisions, and expect a Michelin star white glove experience on a fast food budget.
Okay, so let's break down the mechanics of how we actually fix this. If I am a caterer, and I know I can't just look at my competitor's website and copy their prices minus 10%, what exactly am I looking at?
You have to look inward.
How should a caterer determine pricing? How is a proper, profitable quote actually built from the ground up?
Well, your pricing must be an unemotional mathematical formula based entirely on your specific internal costs and your required profit margin.
Unemotional being the key word there.
Yes. First, you calculate your direct costs. That's the exact raw food ingredients and the specific hourly labor required to execute that one event. But where people truly hemorrhage money is failing to calculate the hidden indirect costs.
The silent killers. Let's list these out because they are so easy to ignore until the credit card bill arrives. What are some of these hidden costs?
Think about the physical wear and tear on your equipment. When you transport heavy chafing dishes, insulated hot boxes, and expensive serving platters in the back of a van, they get dropped, dented, and scratched.
They don't last forever.
They have a lifespan. They must be replaced. Are you factoring equipment depreciation into your quote?
Probably not. What else?
What about commercial auto insurance? That is vastly more expensive than personal car insurance. What about the diesel fuel, which fluctuates constantly?
Right, and credit card fees.
Oh, the processing fees. If a client pays a $10,000 invoice with an Amex, you are instantly losing $300 just to the merchant fee.
It's gone.
If you didn't build a 3% buffer into your pricing, you just paid for the privilege of taking their money.
And the biggest hidden cost of all, which I think completely destroys the mental health of caterers, is the administrative time.
Oh, absolutely.
The invisible hours spent at the laptop.
Admin time is labor. If you spend 5 hours over 3 weeks emailing a corporate event planner back and forth, revising a menu 6 different times to accommodate shifting dietary restrictions,
Taking consultation phone calls.
coordinating load-in times with the venue, that is, 5 hours of highly skilled labor. If you do not explicitly build the cost of your administrative time into your pricing model or charge a baseline administration fee, you are volunteering your time.
You are working for free?
You are working those 5 hours for absolute zero compensation. Every single quote must equal cost of goods sold, plus direct labor, plus an allocated percentage for your fixed overhead, plus your required net profit margin.
And if it doesn't hit that formula...
You don't send the quote.
Wow. Which flows directly into mistake number 2, not tracking food costs.
Yeah.
And I don't mean generally knowing that beef is more expensive than chicken. I mean the absolute militant tracking of ingredient prices.
In the culinary world, there is a massive chasm between guessing and knowing. Guessing is fatal.
Because I hear caterers say, oh, I just eyeball the portions. I know roughly what a case of chicken breasts runs me.
No, you absolutely do not. Because global and local food prices are incredibly volatile. They shift weekly and sometimes daily based on supply chain disruptions, severe weather events impacting crop yields, and general inflation.
Right. And the timeline of catering makes this uniquely dangerous compared to a restaurant.
It's a completely different beast.
If you own a restaurant and the price of tomatoes skyrockets on Tuesday, you can literally just reprint the menu or change the chalkboard price on Wednesday.
Easy fix.
But in catering, you are often pricing a wedding in February that won't actually take place until October.
Right, an 8-month gap.
If you are just guessing what a beef tenderloin will cost 8 months from now based on today's wholesale price, you are playing Russian roulette with your business. So how do we actually handle that? Do we just cross our fingers?
You never cross your fingers. You use dynamic pricing clauses in your contracts.
Legal protection.
Exactly. A professional catering contract must state that the quoted price is an estimate based on current market value, and that if the wholesale cost of proteins or specific ingredients rises by more than a certain percentage, say 10% before the event, the final invoice will be adjusted accordingly.
Or the menu gets substituted with client approval.
Right. It protects you from massive market swings. But beyond the legal contracts, you have to understand the daily metrics. You need to know your food cost percentage.
Let's break that metric down for the listener. What is the actual formula and what is the benchmark we are aiming for?
Food cost percentage is the most critical, vital sign of your kitchen's health. It is simply the total raw cost of the ingredients required to make a dish, divided by the price you ultimately charge the client for that dish.
Okay, and the standard?
Industry standard dictates that your food cost should sit somewhere between 25 and 30%.
So if you charge a client $10 for a plated appetizer.
The raw ingredients, the crostini, the goat cheese, the fig jam, the garnish should cost you absolutely no more than $2.50 to $3.
That's a huge markup, though.
Well, that remaining 70 to 75% isn't just profit. That's the misconception. It has to cover your prep cooks, your servers, your rent, your marketing, your insurance. And then whatever is left at the very bottom of the barrel is your profit.
Let's flesh this out with some specific menu items, because I think assuming all food behaves the same way is a massive trap. Let's start with a caterer's best friend, a pasta dish.
Pasta is an incredible vehicle for profitability.
Why is that?
The baseline ingredients, flour, water, eggs, or even purchasing high-quality imported dried pasta in massive bulk are incredibly cheap.
Right.
Even if you elevate the dish with a robust, slow-simmered San Marzano tomato sauce, fresh basil, and roasted garlic, your actual cost per serving is literally pennies on the dollar.
But the client still loves it.
Exactly. The perceived value to the client remains exceptionally high, especially if you present it beautifully in a gleaming chafing dish with fresh Parmesan grated over the top. The margin on a well-executed pasta dish is astronomical. It is an anchor for your overall event profitability.
Now, let's contrast that cheap, stable pasta with the protein. Let's look at the classic chicken entree. Every caterer has a chicken option. It feels safe.
It feels safe, yes.
But the microeconomics of chicken are actually quite complex, aren't they?
They are incredibly complex and inherently risky. First, as we mentioned, the commodity pricing is highly volatile.
Right, like an avian flu outbreak.
Exactly. An outbreak hits the Midwest, and the wholesale cost of a 40-pound case of chicken breast can double in a matter of days. Second, the margins are much tighter because the protein itself is the most expensive component of the plate.
And the third issue.
The third issue, and this is where most caterers bleed money without realizing it, is yield percentage and portion control.
Yes. The difference between raw weight and cooked weight. Break this down because this is where the math goes sideways.
So let's say you build out your quote, right? And it's based on serving exactly a 4-ounce cooked chicken breast per guest.
Okay, 4 ounces cooked.
To get a 4-ounce cooked yield, considering shrinkage and moisture loss in the oven, you need to start with roughly a 5.5-ounce raw breast.
Makes sense.
But what if your supplier sends cases of random-sized breasts and your prep cook is rushed? Suddenly, they are butchering and cooking 7-ounce raw breasts.
Oh, boy.
After shrinkage, you are serving a 5.5-ounce cooked portion to the guests.
The guest is thrilled, obviously. They get a massive piece of chicken.
The guest is thrilled, but you just increased your raw protein cost by over 30% on every single plate. You are literally bleeding money with every plate that leaves the expo line.
Let's do the terrifying math on that. Let's say we have a slight miscalculation. We miss the mark by just 50 cents per person on this chicken dish. It sounds completely trivial. I mean, 50 cents is couch change, but what happens at scale?
Let's take a medium-sized corporate gala. 300 guests. You missed your target cost by 50 cents a plate due to sloppy portioning or failing to check your supplier invoice that week.
So 50 cents times 300.
50 cents multiplied by 300 guests is $150 instantly wiped from your bottom line.
Wow.
Now, let's say your prep cooks also heavy-handed the expensive Gruyere cheese in the potato gratin side dish, costing you an extra 30 cents a plate.
It's another $90 gone.
Right. And they use too much premium olive oil in the salad dressing, costing 10 cents a plate. That's $30.
So what's the total damage?
You just lost $270 of pure bottom-line net profit on food alone. If you only projected a $600 net profit for the entire grueling weekend event, you just cut your take-home pay in half because your prep cook didn't use a kitchen scale.
That is staggering. Just brutal. And we shouldn't overlook the other side of the spectrum, which is items that actually save your margins, like mistake number 3's hidden solution. A dessert tray.
Oh, yes.
People treat dessert as an afterthought, but strategically, it's brilliant, right?
A well-executed dessert display is a high-margin anchor. The core ingredients of baking flour, granulated sugar, butter, eggs are generally low-cost commodities.
Right, very stable pricing.
But a tiered, beautifully arranged dessert display featuring mini fruit tarts, gourmet brownies, and lemon bars has massive emotional, visual, and aesthetic appeal.
People definitely eat with their eyes.
They do. The perceived value is enormous, allowing you to charge a premium per head while the actual food cost might be well under 15%. It balances out the tighter margins of the proteins.
So once you realize how volatile food costs are and how punishing a tiny 50-cent mathematical error can be at scale, it forces a massive paradigm shift.
It really does.
It forces you to look incredibly closely at what exactly you are offering on your menu and who is in the kitchen making it. Because if you combine tight margins with massive complexity, you are engineering your own doom.
Complexity is the enemy of profit.
Which brings us to the operational nightmare of mistake number 3, offering too many menu items.
I call this the illusion of choice. It is a psychological trap that almost every new caterer falls into.
Why do they do it?
They operate under the completely false assumption that a massive, encyclopedic 10-page menu equals capturing a wider client base.
They think more options means more yeses.
Exactly. They think if I offer authentic Italian, regional Mexican, classic French, Southern BBQ, and a dedicated vegan fusion menu, I will never have to turn down a single inquiry. I can be everything to everyone.
And behind the scenes, trying to execute a diner-style menu in a catering environment is pure operational chaos. What are the specific cascading financial effects of a bloated menu?
It infects every single layer of the business. Let's start with the physical reality of inventory waste.
Okay, break that down.
If you have 80 disparate items on your master menu, you are forced to stock an unbelievable variety of ingredients in your pantry and walk-ins. You might have a specific Moroccan tagine dish on the menu that requires expensive saffron threads, preserved lemons, and a highly specific blend of spices.
And if nobody orders it?
If only one client orders that dish every 4 months, you're forced to buy those ingredients, use a tiny fraction of them for that one gig, and the rest sits on your shelf slowly losing potency, expiring, or taking up valuable real estate.
That is your cash flow, literally rotting in a plastic quart container.
Precisely. And it absolutely destroys your purchasing power with your vendors.
Oh, because you aren't buying in bulk.
Exactly. To get aggressive, profitable pricing from major food purveyors, you need volume. You need to buy in massive bulk. If your menu is sprawled across 50 different cuisines, you are buying small, fragmented, inefficient quantities of 200 different
You
ingredients.
never hit the discount tiers.
Yes, never. You never hit the volume thresholds required to get the deep discounts. If instead you had a highly focused menu built around 3 incredible chicken variations, you could buy chicken by the pallet, driving your food costs down to the floor.
I have to challenge this advice, though, because this is where caterers push back. The advice is always, shrink the menu, cut the bottom 20%. On paper, in a spreadsheet, that makes total sense.
Sure.
But in the real world of client acquisition, let's say I audit my sales and realize my vegan fusion options are in the bottom 20% of sales. If I cut them to save $50 on inventory waste, don't I risk losing massive corporate accounts?
How so?
Because often it is the one vegan executive on the board of directors who wields the veto vote over where the entire 300-person office orders their lunch. Aren't we risking a $3,000 core order just to streamline our pantry?
That is an excellent pushback, and it highlights the difference between dead weight and a strategic loss leader. You are absolutely right about the vegan veto vote. You must accommodate dietary restrictions to win large contracts.
So how do we do both?
The solution isn't to maintain a massive, complex, separate vegan menu with 20 unique ingredients. The solution is menu cross-utilization.
Cross-utilization. Give me an example.
You design 1 or 2 spectacular vegan dishes that utilize the exact same base ingredients you are already buying in bulk for your mainstream menu.
Ah, I see.
For example, if you are buying massive quantities of high-quality rice, black beans, roasted corn, and peppers for a popular Southwestern chicken bowl, your vegan option is a brilliant, elevated variation of those exact same ingredients, minus the chicken and dairy, perhaps adding a bulk-purchased avocado lime dressing.
That makes perfect sense.
You solve the veto vote without expanding your inventory footprint by a single square inch. That is strategic menu design.
You keep the capability, but kill the unique inventory. Because if you don't, you are just transferring your costs from the pantry directly to the payroll.
Absolutely.
You can buy flour and water for pennies to make that highly profitable homemade pasta we talked about. But if your menu is so complex that it takes 3 prep cooks 6 hours to hand roll and cut that pasta, your cheap food cost just exploded into a massive labor expense.
Which is mistake number 4, ignoring labor costs.
Yes, which means we need to talk about the other side of the coin, labor. And labor isn't just the people walking around in black aprons handing out champagne. We need to break down the 4 distinct, often completely untracked pillars of labor.
The 4 pillars are crucial.
Let's start with pillar 1, prep labor.
Prep labor is the silent killer because it happens out of sight. This is the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday leading up to a Saturday event.
Right, nobody sees this part.
It is the washing, the butchering, the chopping, the marinating, the baking, and the physical loading of the heavy hot boxes into the vans. Many caterers have incredibly sloppy tracking here. They just look at their weekly payroll and assume the math works out.
But it usually doesn't.
No. If you have a highly intricate, delicate appetizer, say, a miniature beef Wellington that requires a cook to individually wrap hundreds of tiny pieces of meat in puff pastry, the manual labor hours required to assemble that tray might completely negate the price you were charging for it.
Exactly. You might be charging $3 per appetizer, and the food cost is only 50 cents, so you think you are making a killing.
But you aren't.
Right, because if you were paying out $75 in hourly wages just to assemble that one specific tray, your profit margin on that item is actually negative. Okay, pillar 2, event labor. This is the on-site staff, the chefs, servers, and bartenders.
This is the most visible labor and generally the most accurately tracked because you build a specific shift schedule. You know you need 4 servers from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
So what goes wrong here?
The fatal flaw here, however, is failing to build a financial buffer for the reality of live events, because things never run exactly on time.
Which bleeds immediately into pillar 3. I call this the invisible profit killer, cleanup labor.
Cleanup labor is where profit margins go to die.
Oh, man. It really is.
It happens when the glamour of the event is over, the guests are gone, the lights are up, and the adrenaline has completely crashed.
Everyone just wants to go home.
Yet they can't. Now, your exhausted staff has to scrape hundreds of plates, break down the snicky buffet tables, pack up the dirty, heavy chafed dishes, load the van in the dark, drive all the way back to the commissary kitchen, unload the van, and stand at the dish pit for 2 hours.
Let's look at the time creep scenario with that.
Yes, time creep. The client's speeches ran 45 minutes long, the band played an encore, your loadout is delayed by an hour and a half.
And your staff is just standing around.
If you have 10 staff members on the clock and they are dragging their feet because it's 1:00 a.m., you are suddenly paying 15 extra hours of unbudgeted time and a half overtime.
It's to clean up.
If your projected net profit for that event was only $400, that unexpected midnight cleanup just wiped it out entirely. You catered the event for free.
That makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about it. And finally, pillar 4, delivery labor, or as we like to call it, windshield time.
Windshield time is active depreciation of your profit. You are paying hourly wages for human beings to sit in a metal box and stare at brake lights.
Just watching the money burn.
Exactly. If you pay a driver $22 an hour and they get stuck in an hour of gridlock traffic on the way to deliver a corporate lunch drop-off, that windshield time is actively eating the margin of the sandwiches in the back. Not to mention the fuel burn and the wear on the tires.
So if I am looking at my profit and loss statement, what is the target here? What percentage of revenue should labor actually represent?
As a general industry benchmark, your total labor costs, meaning prep, event execution, cleanup, windshield time, and your administrative payroll should hover right around 30% of your gross revenue.
30%.
Okay. If you combine that 30% labor with your 30% food cost, you hit 60% in what we call prime costs.
Leaving 40%.
That leaves you with 40% to cover your fixed overhead, your marketing, your kitchen rent, and leave you with a healthy 10 to 15% net profit margin at the end of the day. But if your labor creeps up to 40% because of poor prep efficiency and midnight overtime, your net profit drops to zero.
That transition is crucial because we can sit here and build the most optimized, mathematically perfect menu with militant labor tracking and pristine food cost percentages.
Right, the perfect internal system.
But if you apply to the wrong client or the wrong event, you still lose money. The systems mean nothing without boundaries. Which brings us to mistake number 5, taking every event.
This circles back to the psychological fear of the empty calendar. When the phone rings, the visceral instinct of the entrepreneur is to say yes.
You want the revenue, you want the validation.
But the mature business owner understands that not all money is good money. In fact, certain revenue is highly toxic to your operational health.
Saying yes to everything is like trying to catch every falling leaf. You just end up exhausted with a messy yard. So let's categorize these toxic events. First, the time vampires.
Small events with high complexity are massive time vampires. Imagine you accept a lunch catering gig for just 15 people. The total revenue is tiny.
But the demands are huge.
Exactly. The client requires 5 different, highly specific dietary accommodations. They want 1 gluten-free meal, 1 severe tree nut allergy protocol, 1 strict vegan, and 2 keto meals.
For 15 people.
Yes. They call you 3 times to discuss the nuances of the menu. You draft 4 different revisions of the PDF proposal. The administrative time spent coordinating, plus the highly customized, individualized prep time required in the kitchen to avoid cross-contamination, completely eclipses the tiny revenue you are generating.
It's just not worth it.
You might spend 12 hours of mental and physical labor for an event that nets you $40.
And what about the bad fit? The hidden costs of difficult clients during the consultation phase.
The hidden costs of a difficult, demanding client are immense, and they don't show up on a spreadsheet until it's too late.
What are the red flags?
If, during the initial phone call, a client is rude to your staff, constantly questions your professional expertise, demands unreasonable discounts, or expects a tasting for a tiny drop-off order, you have to walk away.
It's hard to do, but you have to.
The stress they cause your team leads directly to staff burnout and turnover. Do you know how much it costs in time and money to recruit, hire, and train a new lead prep cook?
Thousands of dollars, I imagine.
Thousands. If a toxic client causes your best cook to quit, that gig just cost you thousands.
And the other boundary we absolutely have to discuss is geography. The long-distance event.
This is a classic trap. A client calls and says, "We absolutely love your food, but our wedding venue is 2.5 hours away in the mountains."
You see that $20,000 invoice potential and you immediately say yes.
But let's look at the mechanical reality of that geography. That is a 5-hour round trip of pure windshield time. If you have a crew of 6 staff members in the van, you're paying 30 hours of labor just for people to sit in a vehicle.
Plus the massive fuel costs.
Plus the terrifying risk of food temperature issues during a multi-hour transport.
I actually have a personal horror story about exactly this. Early in my career, I took a massive gig 3 hours away. I thought, this is it. This is how I break into a new, wealthy, out-of-town market. I completely ignored the geographical boundaries.
Let me guess. The logistics of the highway ate your margins alive.
Devoured them. We were an hour into the drive, fully loaded with food, and the delivery van blew a rear tire on the interstate. We were stranded on the shoulder.
Oh no, that is the worst case scenario.
Because of the delay, I had to pay all 6 of my staff members an extra 3 hours of unexpected idle overtime while we waited for a commercial tow truck and desperately scrambled a secondary rental vehicle to transfer the hot boxes.
All while paying them.
Yes. By the time that event was finally over, the emergency logistics, the blown tire repair, the fuel, and the massive overtime meant I essentially paid $1,500 out of my own pocket for the privilege of catering that event. The revenue was huge, but the net profit was deeply negative.
It is a brutal way to learn. Unless you are charging a massive, explicitly stated premium travel and logistics fee that completely covers the windshield time, the fuel, and the risk, long-distance events are pure profit killers.
Which perfectly illustrates the absolute necessity of our next point. Mistake number 6. No minimum order requirement.
I will say this definitively. Operating without a firm minimum order requirement is financial self-sabotage. It is the fastest way to run your equipment into the ground for zero return.
Let's bring up a stark contrast. The $75 drop-off order versus a $1,500 full-service event. Walk me through the microeconomics of that $75 sandwich platter.
An office manager calls and wants a small assortment of wraps delivered across town for a small meeting. It's $75 in top-line revenue. Let's look at the costs.
Okay, let's do the math.
Your raw food cost is $25. You pay your delivery driver $22 for the hour it takes to drive there, drop it off, and drive back in traffic. You burn $5 in fuel and vehicle wear.
We're already at $52.
You spent $20 in administrative time just answering the phone, processing the credit card fee, and emailing the receipt. Your total hard costs are $72. You made exactly $3 in net profit.
Wait, $3? Are you serious? You can't even buy a cup of coffee with the profit from that job.
I'm completely serious. $3. And to make that $3, you tied up your administrative attention, you took up space on your prep tables, and most importantly, you deployed your delivery vehicle.
So this is where opportunity cost comes in.
Exactly. This is the profound concept of opportunity cost. Break down why the $75 order is actually a net negative.
Because while your only delivery van is stuck in traffic across town, dropping off that platter that netted you $3, the phone rings.
Right. And who is it?
It's an executive assistant at a major tech firm. They need a last-minute, premium $1,500 hot catering setup for an emergency board meeting. It is a highly profitable gig that would net you $600. But you have to tell them no.
Why? Because your van is currently unavailable, stuck on the highway for a $3 profit?
That $75 order didn't make you money. It literally cost you $600 in lost opportunity.
That is sickening to realize. If you are tying up your physical infrastructure, your ovens, your vans, your staff for pennies, you physically cannot accept the premium client when they call.
Which is exactly why you must institute a firm minimum order policy.
Whether you set it at $500 or $1,000, it creates a protective barrier around your resources. It mathematically guarantees that if your kitchen fires up and your van leaves the parking lot, the net profit will be substantial enough to justify the deployment of your assets.
Okay, so let's move into the execution phase. You've priced the quote perfectly, streamlined the menu, and book a highly profitable client. Now, how do you keep from sabotaging your own success during the execution phase? Mistake number 7, poor event planning.
Execution is where theory meets physical reality. You can have the most beautiful spreadsheet in the world, but if you haven't planned the physical logistics meticulously, the chaos factor takes over, and chaos is incredibly expensive.
I can paint a very visceral picture of this chaos. It is the morning of a massive wedding. You are 2 hours away from load-in. Suddenly, the kitchen manager realizes you are completely out of sternos for the chafing dishes, and nobody ordered bulk ice.
Absolute panic ensues.
Right. A prep cook is pulled off the line, handed a company credit card, and dispatched on a frantic, high-speed shopping trip to the nearest retail grocery store.
And right there, your profit margin is bleeding out on aisle 4.
Because you're paying retail.
Exactly. When you are forced to buy emergency supplies, whether it's ice, sternos, or forgotten fresh basil at retail consumer prices from a local grocery store, rather than at wholesale prices from your commercial purveyor, you are paying a massive premium. Sometimes double or triple the cost.
And you're paying the cook to shop.
Not to mention, you are now paying a staff member their hourly wage to sprint frantically through a grocery store, wait in line at the register, and drive back instead of prepping the venue.
And then there's the ultimate logistical nightmare, running out of food during service.
Running out of food is a reputational catastrophe that you cannot recover from. It is the one thing a client and their guests will never, ever forgive.
It's the caterer's worst nightmare.
If you run out of food, it means your mathematical portion control planning completely failed, or your communication regarding the final guest count failed. But here is the trap. Caterers who know they have poor planning skills are terrified of this happening.
So what do?
To compensate for their lack of precise math, they drastically overprep. They cook way more food than is mathematically necessary just in case.
Which feels safe, but is financially ruinous.
Exactly. It leads to massive, heartbreaking food waste. Throwing away pans of perfectly good, expensive protein at the end of the night is literally throwing your net profit into a dumpster. You overspent on inventory and overpaid on the prep labor to cook it just to throw it away.
So what is the antidote? How do we build a system that rejects chaos?
You build rigid, uncompromising checklists. Think of the aviation industry. A commercial pilot with 20 years of experience does not rely on their memory to prepare a Boeing 737 for takeoff.
They use a checklist every time.
They use a standardized physical checklist every single time without fail. A catering operation must operate with the exact same militant precision. You need a printed prep checklist, a specific equipment load-in checklist, a vehicle inspection checklist.
It reduces stress too.
Good planning isn't just about stress reduction. Good planning is a direct, measurable profit protection mechanism. When standardized systems govern the kitchen, human error drops to near zero, and the profit margin is preserved.
Which sets us up perfectly for mistake number 8, not upselling clients. Now, I'm going to push back hard on this on behalf of the listener.
Go ahead.
A lot of culinary professionals hate the idea of upselling. Doesn't upselling feel a little pushy or salesy to a client who just wants a basic dinner? Aren't I risking annoying them?
That is a very common fear, and it stems entirely from a misunderstanding of what upselling actually is in the hospitality context. If your internal mindset is, how do I squeeze more cash out of this person, then yes, it will feel sleazy.
And the client will feel it.
They will feel manipulated. But you have to completely reframe the concept. In catering, upselling is about providing a complete, elevated experience. You are selling convenience.
Walk me through the psychology of that. How is asking them for more money actually a service to them?
Let's imagine a client booking a corporate retreat dinner. They order the buffet food, the contract is signed. Now, if you don't offer to upsell them a comprehensive beverage package, what is the inevitable reality for that client?
They have to figure out the drinks themselves.
Exactly. That means the office manager has to drive to a big box warehouse store, physically load heavy cases of water, artisanal sodas, and bags of ice into their personal SUV, haul it to the venue, find coolers, and assign someone from their own staff to monitor and refill the drinks all night.
It's a huge headache for them.
It is a massive, stressful logistical headache for them. When you step in and say, for an additional $4 per head, we will provide a beautiful, fully managed hydration station with fruit-infused waters, iced tea, and premium sodas, you are solving a massive problem they haven't even fully realized they have yet. You are selling them peace of mind.
That reframing changes everything. You aren't selling water. You are selling them the ability to relax at their own event. And let's dive into the absolute microeconomics of these upsells, because mathematically, they are the most powerful profit drivers in the entire business.
The math on upselling is staggering because it represents almost pure, unadulterated profit.
Let's look closely at that exact hydration station example.
The raw physical cost of tap water, a few sliced lemons and cucumbers, some wholesale tea bags, and ice is practically microscopic. It might cost you 50 cents per head in raw materials. But you can easily and justifiably charge $4 or $5 per head for a beautifully presented, stylized beverage station in glass dispensers.
That is like a 900% markup.
It is. But here is the most crucial part of the math. The labor and logistical costs are zero.
Wait, explain that. How is the labor zero?
Because you are leveraging the fixed operational costs you are already paying for the core dinner service. You are already paying the commercial auto insurance to drive the van to the venue. Your staff is already on the clock and physically in the room. Your kitchen is already prepped.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean.
Tossing a few bags of ice and some glass beverage dispensers into the back of the van next to the hot boxes costs you absolutely nothing extra in logistical overhead. It adds zero windshield time. It adds zero admin time. But it dramatically, exponentially increases the overall total net profit of the invoice.
That is brilliant. You are just stacking margin on top of existing infrastructure. And this applies to everything, right? Past appetizers instead of a stationary display.
Yeah.
Upgraded premium dessert stations. Dedicated staffing like a prime rib carving station attendant.
Exactly. How these small, high-margin upsells require almost zero additional foundational labor but can dramatically increase the overall profit of the event is just incredible. You are already there. Maximize the revenue of that specific deployment.
All right, we are moving into the big picture, segmenting out of the day-to-day operations and looking at the company as a whole, because executing a great profitable event is fantastic. But an event is just a single point in time.
It's a single gig.
To survive, you need a machine that continuously brings in business and measures your health. Which brings us to mistake number 9, no marketing system.
This is a massive blind spot, and strangely, it is often a point of misplaced pride for veteran caterers.
How so?
I sit down with operators who have been in business for 10 years, and I ask them about their client acquisition cost or their marketing funnel, and they puff out their chests and say, "Oh, I don't do any marketing. I don't spend a dime on ads. I am strictly word of mouth. My business is 100% referrals."
They wear it like a badge of culinary honor.
Thinking it proves their food is so incredibly good that it sells itself.
The referral trap. It feels so organic and safe.
Yeah.
But mathematically, it is a terrifying vulnerability.
It is the single riskiest way to run a multi-$100,000 business. Relying solely on referrals means you have absolutely zero leverage and zero control over your own lead flow.
You're just hoping the phone rings.
You are completely helplessly at the mercy of other people remembering to mention your name to the right person at the exact right moment. You cannot scale a whisper. You cannot look at a spreadsheet and project a 20% growth in revenue next year based on the hope that people will talk about your chicken skewers at a cocktail party.
And what happens when the Whisper network breaks?
That is the nightmare scenario. Referrals can and do dry up overnight without any warning. Let's say you get 40% of your annual revenue from one massive corporate client, and you rely on their internal event planner to book you.
And then that planner leaves.
What happens when that planner takes a new job in a different city? Or what happens when the company gets a new VP of human resources who has a pre-existing relationship with a different catering company? Suddenly, your phone stops ringing, your calendar is empty, and you have absolutely no mechanism to go out and actively hunt for new business because you never built the system.
So we need to build the system. We need to analyze the mandatory modern marketing stack for a caterer. What does a caterer actually need to do? Let's start with Google.
The absolute non-negotiable foundation is setting up and aggressively optimizing your Google business profile. Think about the psychology of the buyer.
They need a caterer fast.
When an office manager is frantically tasked on a Thursday afternoon with finding a caterer for a Tuesday executive board meeting, they do not ask around for referrals. They open their browser and type "corporate catering near me" into Google.
And if you aren't there,
if you do not have a robust, highly optimized profile with pristine, well-lit photos of your setups, crystal clear contact information, and dozens of recent 5-star reviews, you literally do not exist to that high-intent buyer. They will click on the first 3 results, and you will lose the gig without ever knowing it existed.
and what about leveraging Facebook and Instagram visually? Because I see a lot of caterers just posting pictures of raw ingredients or blurry shots of chafing dishes.
Catering is an inherently deeply visual medium. The cliche is true. People eat with their eyes first. Facebook and Instagram are not really about direct lead generation. They function as your dynamic visual proof of competence. They are your portfolio.
So no bad lighting.
You cannot post blurry, unappetizing photos under terrible fluorescent kitchen lighting. You need to showcase the aesthetic, the joy on the guest faces, the immaculate, symmetrical setup of a buffet line, the gleam of the glassware. When a bride or a high-end planner hears your name, the very first thing they will do is look at your Instagram grid to validate your quality before they ever pick up the phone to call you.
Now, here is the B2B networking platform I think everyone gets wrong. LinkedIn. Because everyone fights to the death over weddings, but there's a whole other world out there.
LinkedIn is the most overlooked, untapped gold mine in the entire catering industry. While every other caterer in your city is fighting tooth and nail, spending massive amounts of money on bridal show booths, trying to win the highly emotional, hyper-competitive, one-off Saturday wedding market,
The smart caterers are doing what?
the smart, ruthlessly profitable caterers are quietly sitting on LinkedIn. They are direct messaging pharmaceutical sales reps, regional office managers, and corporate HR directors.
Let's contrast the lifetime value of those two different clients, the bride versus the HR director.
The contrast is staggering. A bride is a massive emotional undertaking. The stress is incredibly high, the expectations are perfection, and crucially, it is a one-and-done transaction. You cater the wedding, and unless they get divorced and remarried, they are never hiring you for a $30,000 dinner again.
The lifetime value is capped.
Now look at the corporate HR director. They are ordering drop-off lunches or quarterly training seminar breakfasts. The emotional stakes are incredibly low. They just want the sandwiches to be on time and the orders to be accurate.
And it repeats.
Most importantly, it is recurring revenue. If you nail a Tuesday drop-off lunch, that HR director will order from you every single month for the next 5 years. The lifetime value of a corporate client can easily eclipse a massive wedding with a fraction of the administrative stress. LinkedIn is how you find them.
And lastly, the overlooked power of email marketing.
Your email list is the single most valuable marketing asset you actually own. You do not own your Instagram followers. The algorithm controls who sees your posts, and the platform can change the rules or ban your account tomorrow.
But email is yours.
If you systematically capture the email address of every single person who ever inquires on your website, every client you've ever served, and every planner you've ever met, you own that database.
And what do you send them?
If you send a beautifully crafted, highly visual, simple monthly newsletter featuring your new seasonal fall menu, or a spotlight on a spectacular gala you just executed, you effortlessly stay top of mind. When that corporate planner finally needs a caterer 6 months from now, your brand is sitting right there, warmly waiting in their inbox.
Which flows perfectly into the final, ultimate mistake.
Yeah.
Mistake number 10, not knowing their numbers. Complete financial ignorance.
This is the graveyard. This is where passionate, incredibly talented chefs go to watch their businesses slowly die. We touched on the psychology of this in the beginning, but we have to rigorously define and firmly separate the 3 fundamental tiers of financial tracking.
Right. Defining and separating revenue, gross profit, and net profit.
If you conflate these 3 things, you are flying a plane blindfolded.
Let's break down the big picture mechanically. What is revenue?
Revenue, as we established, is the absolute top-line metric. It is the gross amount of cash coming into the business. It's the total number printed at the bottom of the invoice you hand the client.
And gross profit.
Gross profit is the second tier. Gross profit is your revenue minus your direct cost of goods sold, meaning you subtract the raw cost of the food ingredients and the direct hourly wages of the staff who worked that specific event. It tells you if the event itself was fundamentally profitable.
But the gross profit is not what you take home.
Not even close. Net profit is the final, brutal truth. Net profit is what remains after you take your gross profit and subtract absolutely everything else required to keep the lights on.
All the overhead.
You subtract the monthly rent for the commissary kitchen, the monthly subscription for your CRM software, the commercial vehicle insurance, the brake pads for the van, the phone bill, the marketing expenses, and finally your own salary as the owner. Net profit is the actual biological health of the company.
So as a business owner who is busy cooking, hiring, and driving, what numbers should every caterer monitor weekly? Because I know so many caterers who literally just throw all their physical receipts into a shoebox, hand it to their CPA in April, and pray they don't owe the IRS money.
The shoebox method is financial suicide. Relying on an end-of-year tax return or even waiting for a monthly profit and loss statement from a bookkeeper is exactly like driving a car down the highway at 80 miles an hour while looking strictly in the rearview mirror.
You're only seeing the obstacles you already hit.
You cannot navigate. You must monitor your food cost percentage and your labor percentage every single week.
Why weekly? Why is monthly not good enough?
Because of the speed at which you can hemorrhage cash. Let's say a major supplier quietly raises the price of beef tenderloin by 15%. Or your new kitchen manager starts scheduling 2 extra prep cooks for every shift unnecessarily.
If you wait for a monthly P&L statement to spot that leak.
You've already lost 4 weeks of profit. That cash is gone forever. You can never get it back. By running your food and labor percentages every single Sunday night, you can course correct instantly on Monday morning. You can slightly adjust your portion sizes, negotiate with a different vendor, or tighten up the staff schedule for the upcoming weekend before the financial bleeding becomes fatal.
Real-time navigation versus looking at the wreckage in the rearview mirror. Okay, moving from diagnosis to immediate practical triage, let's get into the action plan. I want to ask you directly, what is the single biggest profit improvement a catering business owner could make this month?
If I had to mandate just one single action that would yield the most dramatic, immediate mathematical impact on a caterer's bank account, it would be a ruthless, unsentimental menu audit.
A menu audit, what does that look like today?
I want you to print out your entire master menu, every single item you offer laid out on a table, then pull your sales data for the last 6 to 12 months. Identify the bottom 20% of menu items that rarely ever sell, or the items that you know in your gut take an exorbitant, unreasonable amount of prep labor, or the items that require you to purchase highly specific, expensive ingredients that you don't use anywhere else.
And when you find them, what is the protocol?
You cut them. You slash them from the menu completely and utterly. Do not hesitate. Do not keep them around just in case someone asks. Remove the bottom 20% of underperforming complex items.
Addition by subtraction.
The immediate cascading result is breathtaking. Your weekly inventory costs will instantly drop because you are buying fewer disparate items. Your physical food waste in the walk-in will plummet. Your kitchen staff will become measurably faster and more efficient because they are prepping a tighter, more repetitive list of items. You will instantly stop bleeding cash on dead weight. It costs absolutely $0 to execute a menu audit, and it instantly, permanently improves your overall profit margin.
I absolutely love that. And I will add a second immediate action item based on our toll booth discussion earlier. Institute a firm, non-negotiable minimum order policy starting tomorrow morning.
Yes, absolutely critical.
Send an email to your entire staff, update the FAQ page on your website, and change your internal quoting software. Decide right now, today, that your physical infrastructure, your commercial vehicles, and your personal time are highly valuable assets.
They are your most valuable assets.
If you declare publicly that your minimum order for delivery is $500, you immediately construct a fortress against the time vampires. You permanently stop losing money on $50 sandwich drop-offs that eat up 3 hours of admin and windshield time. And you instantly free up your operational capacity to go hunt for the massive, highly profitable corporate clients.
Exactly. You reclaim your capacity, you step off the treadmill that is cranked to maximum speed, and you actually start walking forward toward financial stability.
All right. As we wrap up this incredibly deep dive, let's share some personal reflections. I shared a bit of it earlier, but my personal mistake was absolutely mistake number 5. Taking a nightmare long-distance gig just for the revenue. I saw the top-line revenue number, my ego got the absolute best of me, and I thought I was invincible.
And as we discussed, the logistics of the highway intervened.
They did. I didn't mathematically calculate the risk of windshield time. When the van blew a tire on the interstate, the cascading delays meant I paid massive, unbudgeted overtime to 6 staff members who were literally just standing on the shoulder of the highway waiting for a tow truck. It was a brutal $1,000 lesson in why taking every event is a massive amateur mistake. Revenue outside of your logistical capacity is toxic.
It is a painful realization, but it permanently changes how you evaluate inquiries. My most profound lesson learned in this industry centers entirely around mistake number 10, the fundamental ignorance of the numbers.
The day you finally understood the difference between gross revenue and net profit.
For a very long time early in my career, I operated under the incredibly dangerous delusion that the gross revenue hitting the bank account was the same thing as my personal paycheck. I vividly remember a specific, exhausting weekend where my team executed 3 different events and we billed out a total of $12,000.
You felt like a king.
I was mentally spending that money, feeling incredibly successful. And then on Monday morning, I sat down and forced myself to do the actual granular math. I subtracted the wholesale food invoices, the direct event labor, the invisible prep labor, the unexpected cleanup overtime from a delayed wedding, the cost of the broken glassware from loadout, the fuel, and the allocated weekly overhead for the kitchen rent.
And what was left?
I realized my true, actual net profit for that entire grueling 80-hour weekend was exactly $850.
Ouch. That is a gut punch.
It was a physical blow to my chest. Seeing $12,000 hit the checking account and realizing only $850 of it was actually mine to keep, it completely broke my perception of the business. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me because that was the exact day I stopped caring about vanity top-line revenue and I became militantly obsessed with margins, food cost percentages, and operational efficiency.
So before we sign off, I know you have a weekly action item for the listener. What is one concrete action they can take this week to immediately improve profitability?
Track exactly how much time your staff spends cleaning up your next event. Do not guess. Do not estimate. From the exact moment the final guest walks out the door, start a physical stopwatch on your phone.
Literally time it.
Track the breakdown of the tables, the scraping of the plates, the physical loadout into the van,